into the only team in the AFC South that I feel like could really represent the AFC in the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of hype. Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson. How do you feel? Calvin Ridley coming back.
So initially I wanted to say half open.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to give some breathing room for Trevor Lawrence to take another step this year.
Right.
And
I
I
feel
think
you.
and I think he can. But
Feel
then
like
I
we're
started
anointing him
thinking,
faster than we did Herbert.
and here's what I'm thinking. Trevor Lawrence, and again, sorry for the spoiler, Trevor Lawrence for me right now is a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. At
And
least
he's
going into
in
next year.
Yeah, and he's in the for me, he's in the 6 to 8 range.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I'm thinking about like the jumps we've seen some quarterbacks make the past couple seasons, right? We saw Jalen Hurts make a top 10 jump into the top 5, but he wasn't in the top 10 beforehand. We saw Joe Burrow make a jump from like that. So for me, the jump we could see Trevor Lawrence make this season is the jump we saw Joe Burrow make from rookie season to second season in the league.
Right.
And a lot of it, of course, for Joe had to do with the fact he missed a lot of time because he blew his ACL in Washington. But Joe Burrow went from being a 6 to 8 guy to being, spoiler, again, the second best quarterback in football. In my opinion.
I'm right there with you.
Trevor Lawrence, to me, this season, if he takes another jump, which he had the biggest year 1 to year 2 jump the league has ever seen in every statistical category for a quarterback. He has the potential to go from 6 to 8 to being at worst the third or fourth best quarterback in football.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that.
If he does that this season, then this season the Jaguars championship window is wide open.
Yeah.
Let's look at that game they had against the Chiefs. I know they lost.
But if
there was a game this entire Chiefs run where I was thoroughly concerned during the game, even after having picked the Chiefs they might lose, it was that Jacksonville game.
Exactly.
There was a very, very, very clear moment when you could see, and I know people say it's overrated, but it's not. There were clear moments down the stretch of the first half when you can see the experience of the Chiefs and the inexperience of the Jaguars shoot the Jaguars in the foot. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about a Jaguars team that is going to be adding Calvin Ridley into the fold. You have Travis Etienne Jr. You have, I would say, one of, if not the best O-line in the AFC. You have a reliable defense. You have Christian Kirk. You have Evan Ingram. Dare I say the Jaguars championship window is wide open? Because who can't they beat? Right. Because if you're in a game with the Bills, it's a shootout. They could win a shootout against the Bills. If you're in a game with the Bengals, it's a shootout.
I kind of like the Jags offense better than Buffalo's right now.
And I agree.
Diggs was a little concerned, and I've been waiting. Like, okay, we have a little Dawson Knox surge. We know Isaiah McKenzie and Gabe Davis ain't it. Like, you bring in Deontay Hardy. Where's D-Hop? Like,
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And I'll just say this. There's two very stark differences between the structures of the top 3 to 4 teams in the AFC and the structures of the top 3 to 4 teams in the NFC. When you look at the Eagles, the Niners, the Cowboys, and I don't know, I guess you want to throw the Seahawks in there. All 4 of those teams have elite defenses, or the Seahawks have a really good one. The other 3 have elite defenses.
Right.
The Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, and I would say the Jags are the 4th best team in the division. They have 3 really elite offenses, and the Jags have a really, really, really good offense potentially.
Yep.
Those other 3 teams and the Jags, the defenses aren't scaring anybody. I think the Jags can win a shootout against the Bills. I think the Jags can win a shootout against the Bengals. I think the Jags can win a shootout against the Chiefs. I think the Jags Super Bowl window is wide open. If Trevor Lawrence makes that jump, the jump that Joe Burrow did from year 1 from year 1 to year 2, well, really from year 2 to year 3, the same way the Jaguars could make it to and potentially win a Super Bowl this season.
Right there with you. Absolutely wide open as well. And I feel you on wanting to have that reservation for Trevor Lawrence because I feel like we're anointing him quicker than Justin Herbert only because of how hyped up a prospect he was. Because Justin Herbert's rookie year as a quarterback, he was a top 10 quarterback as a rookie. I mean, that was mind-blowing to actually have to take that in. And when you're like, oh, why was he 4,200 yards, like what, 32
The
touchdowns,
greatest rookie
10
season
picks.
we've ever seen.
Ever. I mean, he literally his first 3 games are against he gets a 5-minute notice to start against Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he I want to say he played. Did he go back and forth with Brady or Rodgers after that? But
He
then I
went
know,
back and forth with Brady in the shootout. It was like 42-45.
and then he comes into New Orleans and
Yeah.
takes a lead until Drew Brees finally gets it together. And he wasn't
Yeah.
even the he was Drew Brees, was the second best quarterback on the field that night. Unfortunately, Justin Herbert was just lighting it up. I mean, I was like, damn, can the Saints actually stop this? So I say all that to say, I totally know what you mean about wanting to keep it half open. But when you look at everything, like, this team has turned around quick. I love Doug Peterson here. I absolutely love him here. Like, we forget he won the last Super Bowl with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We forget that. Or at least I feel like some people do. Like, we have to give him that knowledge. And I understand the league is a lot different than, from when it was when they won the Super Bowl. But let's not kid ourselves. Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, you got Travis Etienne. I mean, you named all the players that are coming back. And then you go and actually look at the defense between, Josh Allen, Devin Lloyd, Foyesay Aluakin, who is one of the top linebackers in the league. Very quiet over there in Atlanta.
Led the league in tackles a couple years ago.
Exactly. So when I saw the Jaguars make that move, I was like, I really like that. Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. If they make a free agency move at the right time within the AFC this year, they could have the momentum, maybe not swing all the way their way, because I still have a lot of love for the Chiefs and the Bengals, of course, but I'm going to say it's wide open as well. I mean, it's time for this team. Look at everything that they have in front of them. Trevor Lawrence, even if he doesn't take a major leap, I still think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback coming into next year. And the Jaguars Super Bowl window is absolutely wide open as well for me.
Super quick before we go to the next team.
Yeah, you're good.
It just came into my mind. I haven't heard anyone say this. I'm not recycling any take. This is an original thought from this noggin. And I usually save all my original thoughts for my show, but I'm not talking football for a while. So if there's anywhere I'm going to drop an original thought as spicy as this one, I wouldn't want to do it anywhere else than on the NFL with AJL.
My man.
We've talked about the Chiefs. We've talked about the Bills. We've talked about the Cowboys. We've seen rumblings about even the Patriots, maybe the Titans, as being potential landing spots for DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
I don't know if he's visited, but I do think we should give some serious thought about maybe the Jaguars making a call to DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that they've been missing, despite the talent, is, again, we talked about the same thing that we talked about with Justin Herbert in the tight end. I'll put it with Trevor Lawrence. Every young guy needs a vet they can rely on in the clutch.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins, despite the injuries the past couple seasons, could fit in perfectly with this Jaguars team.
Yep.
He wouldn't have to be the number one receiver, but he probably would be, because I think even to this point in his career, he's still probably better than a Christian Kirk or he is better than Christian Kirk. He's probably better than Calvin Ridley as well at this point. But even if he's not, even if he's wide receiver 2, what you'd be looking at is a team in the AFC, only the second team in the AFC that has a legit trio at the wide receiver position. The only other team in the AFC that can say they have a legit, reliable trio at wide receiver is Cincinnati. They've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. If you add D-Hop to Jacksonville, that makes them the only other team in the AFC that has a legitimate, threatening trio at the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. If D-Hop goes to Jacksonville, and I don't think Jacksonville is on his radar, and I don't think D-Hop is on Jacksonville's radar, but if at some point that happens, and I think it could,
I'm there with you. I want to say I put him on the last season. I'd like to see him in.
We saw just last offseason with the NBA, like, it looked like Donovan Mitchell was going to the Knicks, and then here comes the Cavs out of nowhere. I think we can see the Jaguars do something very similar and just kind of come out of nowhere and land DeAndre Hopkins. That sets them apart even more. There's a lot of people I think don't want to put them on that tier with the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills just yet. And so they're kind of like on a tier by themselves. Or at the very least, they're on a tier with like the Ravens. But the Jacksonville Jaguars with DeAndre Hopkins firmly cement themselves on a tier with the elite teams in the AFC. I 100% think the Jacksonville Jaguars should make a call to DeAndre Hopkins, because that only further lengthens the championship window. So if at the very least it's half
And
open
helps
right
Trevor
now,
Lawrence so
it can be
much.
wide open next season. But I do think it's wide open right now. But I just thought about that when we were talking. I think DeAndre Hopkins to Jacksonville could be a match made in heaven.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was saying, I'd love him to the Chiefs. I'd love him to the Bills. I'd love him to the Ravens. But, like, if you're really talking about a guy that's on that pivotal point of his breakthrough, I guess his junior breakthrough, no sophomore slump clearly with Trevor Lawrence, and you give him a guy like D-Hop who could easily be the one but could also slide into the two if Calvin Ridley's more healthy or he could
Yeah.
just carry more of the load because DeAndre Hopkins has been in the league, about a decade. And I
Yep.
feel like he's on that point now to where, okay, let me take my talents to a team where I can actually push for a title. I don't think
Yep.
the Patriots are one of those teams. I don't think the Titans are one of those teams. I do believe Jacksonville is one of those teams when you talk about the likes of the Chiefs, when you talk about the likes of the Bills that are actually looking for that secondary weapon, or maybe in their case, that third or fourth weapon, but just to triple and quadruple down in the most stacked AFC conference that
Yep.
we've ever